Here is a 2010 Chevy Cobalt SS race car. This is one of the team race cars for the Reuben Performance Garage and Barbecue Company that I endurance race with. And I've got the car here, getting it ready for an event. And I thought I would do a little walk around, show people what it looks like. We've done a kind of a simple little autism awareness theme on it. You can see by the puzzle pieces. The Cobalt is a two-door coupe, a 2-liter turbocharged engine. I think from the factory it was about 260 horsepower. We've lowered the boost on this one a little bit to just keep it in the class we want and to help give it some longevity for the endurance racing. We typically do multiple 9-hour races on a race weekend. For races, we take out the passenger seat and we put a cool shirt cooler in its place. Relatively standard race car fare. Aim dash. The white radio box here is actually a driver to passenger intercom, and then we've got our radio at the bottom to communicate with the pits. This car originally raced in SCCA and was prepared by Phoenix Racing in Pennsylvania. They did all the cage work and the initial prep and stripping the interior, and we've only done, some modifications and improvements to make it better suited for endurance racing. When you're behind the wheel, there's not that much to see. We've got a main power and fire switch on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, a stopwatch in the center of the steering wheel for timing our pit stops. The aim dash pretty much has everything we need. The factory gauges are back there, but we have it all duplicated on the aim. We do have a button over here to turn off the traction control. And then we've got another main power, cool shirt, and then we've got our auxiliary fuel tank. Our intercom system. This is driver to passenger intercom, and then this is radio to the pits. Standard 5-speed transmission, and then we've got our SmartyCam recorder down there. To help extend the range for endurance racing, we've added an auxiliary fuel cell. So we still have the stock fuel tank and the stock filler right there, and that's what the engine runs on. But we have an extra fuel cell here, which we use to transfer fuel into the main tank. So this gives us quite a bit more capacity. We do have the battery back here for weight distribution. The remote reservoirs for the shocks, and then we even have a battery charger that lives in the trunk, so it's easy to make sure it stays charged up. Nothing too fancy going on under the hood. A few little improvements. We've have a real oil catch can in there. For the breather, we've upgraded to aluminum hard pipes for the intake pressure system. We have fire nozzles. We do have custom camber plates in there to give us both more caster and more camber, and there's slots underneath, so it's adjustable. It can slide in and out. Here's the shock canister for one side. Here's your other shock canister for the front. We are running an aftermarket radiator, but We are running the stock intercooler in the front. Looking at the bottom, you get a better view of that intercooler. That's the big one in the front there. And then the radiator is right there behind it. You can see the black anodized, or I'm sorry, the black powder-coated charge pipe going to the intercooler there. And here's the one coming from the intercooler over on this side. You see our that orange hose, that's brake cooling. That goes from the brake duct in the bumper over kind of by the control arm right into the center of the rotor there. The Cobalt SS has the upgraded brake package. These are actually pretty good size Brembo 4-piston calipers, and they work pretty well. Again, it's front-wheel drive, you know, being little sedan. You can see the axles going to each of the front wheels there. It has the steering rack behind the engine. That's this part right here. It's got the axle shaft right there that says Joe's Cobalt. Joe must have been getting it from the junkyard. So that's the shaft that goes to the passenger side with the universal joint up there. It has the accessory belt right there, and that's your crank pulley right kind of exposed to the wheel well opening. It does have just the factory sway bar on it, factory control arms. We do have pretty fancy double adjustable struts on it, and we of course are running just you know, coil-over springs, 2 1/4 ID, and we can change those springs out for whatever weight we want for different car handling characteristics, track types, track surfaces, bumpiness, that sort of thing. You can kind of make out the wastegate, that kind of drum-looking thing on the side of the turbocharger, which is kind of wrapped in heat wrap, so I can't get a really good view of it. Yeah, you can see kind of part of the turbo up there. And then it just goes into the downpipe. There's a flex coupler at the downpipe, which then goes into, I think that's just a little resonator. I don't think this car has a catalyst on it. And then it's just a straight pipe all the way out. So no muffler other than the turbocharger. Turbochargers make pretty good mufflers because they absorb so much energy to, you know, to spin and to create boost. You have the factory tank there in front of the rear axle. We do have a stiffer rear sway bar connected to the rear beam axle. Also in the rear we've got our coilover springs, and we actually, the lower perch is threaded so we can easily turn that little screw right there, change the height of that lower perch and change our ride height pretty easily. And we also have, I don't know if it has an official name, but I'm going to call it the toe link bar there's this bar with the two heim joints on either side that it's like a turnbuckle. We can turn that bar and we can adjust the toe a little bit. The other thing we do to adjust the alignment is at the hubs here, point where the hub bolts to the axle, we can put shims in there, angled shims, tapered shims, to control both camber and toe. And we do utilize those. The rear brakes are just a single piston floating caliper. They don't seem to do a lot of work. They last a long time. We do have double adjustable shocks in the rear as well. Try to get a view of that shock for you. We of course have stainless steel brake lines all around. We are running the, we've adapted the rear hubs. We were going through rear hubs in the endurance racing, so we've adapted it to run a front hub. So it's running a front hub in the rear on a custom mount, on a custom block. And the front hub, because it doesn't have an axle going through it, we just have a big bolt with washers and a nut going through the hub to help hold it all together. I don't think I can show you very well the back side of the hub. Well, you can see the head of the bolt back up through there. Maybe this side shows it. Back side of the bolt there. You can see where we modified the floor of the trunk there, made it larger so we could put in our auxiliary fuel cell. Next big step I would do to improve this car is put a real solid under tray on it. Cover up the area from under the intercooler. Really actually see if there's a lip. You can get a lower lip for the bumper, and then make a kind of a solid tray that will cover all of this. And that'll also help direct air over the intercooler as opposed to going around the bottom, or it will direct that airflow, making everything a little bit more efficient. And of course also help protect things if you run over a curb or a piece of debris on the track, things like that. And having a smoother bottom will help aero a little bit. I mean, the speed that this car goes, it's not going to make a dramatic difference, but every little bit helps.